Well, hello there, and welcome to the kitchen of the dollhouse. And what are we cooking up today? Well, my friends, another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Hugh Stelfers for February 6th, the day of popularity. That's right. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of popularity. What do we have? Well, it might just be something simple. That's right. Usually isn't. A little focus here, a starfish. That's right, a starfish for the day of popularity. A living star, if you like. That's right. Now, does that speak to the day of popularity? Well, maybe so, maybe so. Who's to say? That having been said, it's not altogether all too important when it's somebody's birthday today. That's right. So, wishing you a happy birthday. If it's your birthday, that's what's important around here. But if this video finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may happen to be, well, I hope you had a happy birthday if that's the circumstance. But a lot of times we have people drop in just to celebrate the birthday. And so if that's the case, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. That's right. It is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake by rolling some dice, as you can see. But I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And oh, how about this? I rolled us some doubles. That's right, straight to jail. Yes, sir. Or ma'am. But you know what? I rarely rare doubles. It's been a minute. That having been said, what is synchronicity? You're probably wondering. Well, my friends, a lot of the times we get out into the world and we're very laser or singular of focus. We oftentimes have the blinders on to what's ostensibly going on around us. Yeah, we may see a lot of things, but a lot of times we don't lend them much credence. And why is this important? Well, as I hear tell, the universe or the higher powers that be will oftentimes put things in our path to help us realize our goals or manifest our aspirations, right? But if we got the blinders on to the things going on around us, hey, we're not very well apt to pick up on those things, right? So this is a little bit of an exercise to help us identify those signs with one we can't help but identify. That's right. Your daily numbers there. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers that I rolled for you. The intention is there, all right? But it's probably advisable you take your own set of dice. So you can ascribe directional values to number sets as well as time limits with which to go in those directions. That is, if this is something that, I don't know, strikes your fancy to get out there and try to do. A little bit of an exercise there. That said, if it's not, hey, just skip ahead to the reading proper. But if it is, stick around. I'll explain it a little bit. All you got to do is pick a spot that's maybe near and dear to your heart out in the world, or one that maybe you wish to go explore a little bit. So take your dice, get out to that spot, say the town square, and roll that dice out there. Get your directional value and your time limit set, all right? But having said that, make sure you take those blinders off, all right? Start soaking up everything around you like a sponge, because you never know, the day might start to take on a theme. You might not just start seeing your numbers everywhere, you might start seeing something creep up all the time. Take your starfish as the visual representational image there. Maybe you just start seeing starfish everywhere. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense. They're usually reserved for the oceans there, but it might not be a literal starfish. It might be like a sticker that somebody slaps up on a transformer box there, or perhaps you see it in an advertisement on a bus that's passing by, or on a billboard. That kind of thing. Maybe you start seeing like tchotchkes that are in the shape of starfish, you know, that kind of stuff. So keep an eye out for anything. It might not be a starfish, it could be just about anything. That's right. But hey, you take it as a sign that you're on the right path. That having been said, maybe you get to the end of this first time limit directional value and you haven't seen anything out of the ordinary or anything that speaks to this idea of synchronicity. That's okay. Never fret. Just compose yourself. Maybe look around, see what you see. Maybe just so happen to notice, as I often like to say, you're on Old 12th Avenue, hey, or 66th Street, whatever the case may happen to be. The point being, you might just be something small that you wouldn't otherwise see that shows you you're on the right path. All right, so roll your dice again, get another time value, directional value going. Maybe at the end of this one, you just so happen to notice that a bus pulls up, and hey, you know what? Wouldn't it happen to be? That's right, the number 12 line. That's right. Hey, I know you probably don't like to ride the bus, but maybe it just so happens that you have perfect change in your pocket to ride. A little apprehensive there. What do you know it? 6th, the bus leaves. Hey, you didn't follow that instinct. That's all right. Maybe you look up and you notice, what's this? Across the street is a fish store. That's right. Hey, yo, visual representational image, right? Well, go on in there. Maybe it just so happens the address is part of your numbers too. All right. So I would take that as a sign that, hey, the universe hasn't forgotten about you, even though you didn't get on the bus. All right. So maybe go in there, see what you see. I know you're probably not in the market for any kind of, aquarium or fish type stuff, but you know what? See what you see. You go in there, maybe nobody's in the store. It's just the individual behind the counter. Hey, can I help you? What's going on today? Oh, you know what? Just be transparent and honest about what you're doing. Show them your dice, show them this video. I'm just here on account of synchronicity, trying to maybe stack up some coincidences if you like. And they go, what are you talking about? We just sell fish here, all right? And you go, well, can I look around at least? Well, of course you can look around. Maybe you buy something. Hey, you know what? Maybe you get to the back of the store and there's one of those living aquariums, right? Hey, I think you see where I'm going with this. But hey, maybe you don't. Maybe they don't have any starfish. They got everything else in there, though. Urchins and all sorts of different types of seaweed, but no starfish to be seen. Hey, you know what? Sometimes anomalies are things to be on the lookout for, too. So maybe you leave in a huff. There was no starfish in there or whatever particular thing. You roll your dice again. Hey, maybe you just so happen to notice at this time somebody comes up to you. Maybe it's a child, say, hey, what are you doing rolling dice? Yeah, you know, and you look up and the parents like, yeah, trying to pull them away, but maybe they're interested too. All right, yeah, the minds of children, right? You just explain it to them, and you know what? Maybe the kid goes, hey, it's my mom's birthday too, or my dad's, whoever and it's like that's pretty crazy. And, hey, we're not doing anything. Maybe they're apt to join you. Maybe the kid's like, hey, we need to go with them, see what their dice roll do, blah blah blah. You know what? Maybe you just so happen to meet a friend. And hey, if you had found a starfish in that aquarium, you know what? You might have been taking more time and those folks might have passed you by on the street. So maybe that was the whole intention. The universe lined it up so you could meet this individual who shares your birthday. And who's to say? Maybe you guys get out and you drum up even more coincidences. That's right, because that's kind of the point. To see that the universe is with you on your path. So I think you get the idea. Get out there, see, taste, touch, smell, maybe even, like I said, touch a little bit of the magic if it's the starfish in the living aquarium that happens to be there, and you'll understand why I brought it up, all right? Because if there's anything I can wish for on your birthday, it's that you're out there having a little bit of fun and trying new and exciting things. So in any event, that's synchronicity. Let's move on with the birthday read, all right? Your month is February, your day is the 6th, your sign is 16 to 18 degrees Aquarius of the Aquarius II period specifically, and your quality and element is fixed air. All right, February 6th, the day of popularity. Let me try to get the smile off my face. That's kind of a ridiculous example there. All right, those born on February 6th display both a great need and capacity to be popular with their social set. And indeed, they wish to be admired and praised by those whom they care about. In the eyes of other socially oriented individuals, they may seem as extremely lucky to attract so much attention. And in fact, they are usually quite insecure about their real worth, and therefore seek the bolstering of others as well as a measure of ego massage. More than with most people, a yearning to be loved can burden the heart of a February 6th person. In attempting to explain the popularity of those born on this day, one might find that good looks, charm, and an outgoing manner are at work. But surely the ability to strike a common chord in the hearts of others is something almost all February 6 people have in common. Perhaps it is their lack of pretension and accessibility that allows acquaintances, even strangers, to identify with them and helps elicit such a strongly positive response. And the confidence and trust they inspire in others often earns them praise when things go well and tends to protect from criticism and blame when things go awry. Naturally, of course, the life of someone who values popularity invariably involves its opposite, unpopularity. And this highly undesirable state thwarts February 6 ambitions and therefore must be overcome. In order to regain or maintain their favored status, less evolved February 6 people will go to any ends, including changing their views, giving up friends, even altering their physical appearance. And it could be said they are like flowers, forever turning toward the sunlight of approval and gratification. More highly evolved February 6 people are also able to change with the times, yet at the same time cherish and nurture the part of themselves that is constant and unique. Ultimately, those born on this day may have to overcome their need for recognition by focusing more on their inner worth, what they have in common with others, and how they can be of service to their family or community. Indeed, on few other days is it the necessity to develop lasting and meaningful inner values so vital. Yet the decision rests entirely on the February 6th person whether or not to do so. And there are numerous distractions with which they can direct their attention away from such important work. Perhaps the most practical answer may be for those born on this day to simply live up to the great faith which others place in them. And yet this may not be so easy. For if they come to take the attention they get for granted, they will forget that respect is something that must be earned and that sacrifices are demanded of all of us. All right, quite the interesting birthday breakdown. It was a bit hyper-focused, but that has been a constant theme since, say, the beginning of Capricorn. All told, there have been a few days that tend to round out things a little bit better, to say, incorporate what an individual may be like as a parent, maybe what their childhood was like, or what their family life is like in their career, etc. But here, they kind of just drilled down on this particular facet, kind of expanded out from there. That said, I tend to like when things are a little bit more rounded, but these things are pretty interesting in how they drill down and examine the various facets of that one particular theme. That said, I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on the things we just read, to maybe make connections to days previous, to the period at large, etc. So let's dive into it, see what I had to say here. Displaying a great need and ability to be popular in your social circle, you may wish, according to the reading, to be admired and praised by those you care about. Hopefully for some kind of pragmatic value you provide versus just, existing, okay? But considering that's how popularity seems to work, at least in a high school kind of sense, or, by way of an arbitrary quality of status there, if you like. And insecurity in this particular realm seems to be the dynamic affecting many Aquarius individuals, as it turns out. But it was my initial feeling that this need was rooted in a kind of insecurity. And the reading inevitably confirms as much to no small end. Such things being rooted in insecurity, I mean. But interestingly, even though that may be the case, even though this need to be admired and popularity might have a root in insecurity, I just lost my train of thought here. I would say, here we go. I would say you arguably provide a certain kind of what do you call value to all of this ends here, if the breakdown applies. And I say that, and they even mentioned as much. You strike a common chord with people, all right, by exuding this charm that you have. It's baked into your personality, and also this outgoing manner that you may exude. Because you ostensibly make people feel good with all of that, all right? You may even make them feel seen, and it's like they exist, okay? It may not be a tangible value add in so many regards, but I would say it's very important nonetheless. If you make people feel good, you provide a value, all right? And to that end, it's further said that it's done without pretension, all right? Something that sets you apart from an alarming number of other Aquarius individuals that pop up in this period here, at least that have been covered in the past few weeks. Who's to say how it's going to kind of roll out in the forthcoming weeks here. But the reading goes on to discuss how being unpopular can potentially affect you pretty detrimentally there. And the higher and lesser evolved personality types as well, they kind of drill down on. The lesser evolved folks changing themselves to chase after this popularity, and the higher changing with the times, but valuing the parts of their personality that make them unique individuals. All right. And I think you can imagine where most people would like to land on that one is the higher evolved there. Um, so it's admirable in that respect, and I'm glad they brought it up to kind of show what kind of differences there are within the realm of who you might could be there, regardless of your personality. So inner worth, self-understanding, they also provide a value, and that all comes up in the breakdown. And I would say those are huge takeaways, not just for someone focused on being admired, but for everyone, I would argue. All right. And to this last point, pertaining to respect being something that is earned and not given, that was something I brought up the other day. I tried to find where it came up, but I couldn't quite drill down on it. So it's interesting that I drilled down on that particular aspect of pertaining to this particular individual who was basically trying to take things without, they felt like they deserved them, even though they didn't do anything that, would merit being given as much. And so I like that it kind of precipitated that, and then it kind of lent into this birthday, that being mentioned here in this birthday breakdown specifically. Again, there's been a lot of through lines that carry through in a sporadic nature, and sometimes for a variety of different reasons, but they all kind of come down to a similar root through this Aquarius period. So it's pretty interesting this has been coming up. Like I said, a very hyper-focused day in regards to the theme. Somewhat disappointingly, like I said, I like when they round it out. It provides just that much more stuff to drill down on, and for opportunity for people to kind of see how they may be similar to stuff that ostensibly, how's somebody going to drill down on a personality type? It seems kind of outlandish to think, but when they provide a more rounded out breakdown, I think it gives more opportunity. But arguably, hey, it might also provide more opportunity to be disjointed as well, but who's to say? Any event, I thought they drilled down on a lot of important facets there. So certainly something like popularity coming up and that being a driving theme through someone's life. I mean, who would have thought, right? Especially like to say like writ large, this happens to people born on this day. Kind of crazy, but who's to say? It might just apply. Any event, that's been the breakdown, what I had to say about it. A little disjointed in places, but hopefully you were able to pick up what I was putting down, if you like. That having been said, let's move on to your numbers and your planets. That's right, we're not done yet. Let's get into it here. Those born on the 6th of the month are ruled by the number 6 and the planet Venus. And those ruled by the number 6 are magnetic in attracting both sympathy and admiration. Now, certainly true for February 6 people. And for those born on this day, the added influence of Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, on Venus lends an erratic and labile emotional life, in which they can be very quickly swept off their feet. Often love becomes the dominant theme in the life of those ruled by the number 6. Well, all right, there's your numbers and planets. This one was somewhat personalized for you. A lot of the boilerplate stuff that comes up, they changed quite a bit of it here. So pretty interesting that you get a little bit of personalization there. But, I would say oftentimes they do as much, even if just a little bit for the numbers and planets. So not too much of a vacillation there from days previous. That said, let's dive back into the notes here. The number 6 in the planet Venus for magnetism in attracting sympathy and admiration. Though I don't know if the sympathy aspect would be doing anyone with a purported baked-in insecurity insofar as popularity is concerned any favors. Might not be doing you any favors to be trying to get sympathy from folks. So it might not be very healthy, but it plays into and feeds a weakness the way I'm seeing it, all right? If you're looking for, you might even start to look for sympathy from folks, or maybe some of that victim mentality comes into it. I don't know. That's why I think it's a little unhealthy there. Not to be ironically unsympathetic, just for someone said to attract it. I could see it feeding the beast, if you like. So I think it's important to bring it up. But coupled with Uranus, the erratic and explosive planet, said to electrify and shake up planetary influences. The reading claims it lends to an erratic and quick change or labile emotional life. All right. Interestingly, I'm also ruled by these two influences. They're just flipped around, and it's interesting that dynamics are not at all similar, despite the co-rulership of those two exact planets. So at least going by what's written here in the entry. So it would seem, right? But there are definite differences depending upon which, so maybe there's definite differences depending upon which planet is ruling the day and which one is ruling the zodiac and how they come together in that regard. I'm not an astrologer by any stretch of the imagination, but I just thought it was interesting to say, hey, these two planets, like, how do they relate to each other? And maybe they're kind of the same thing, but not at all the case if we go by the breakdown. So I found that of particular interest, and that's not something that creeps up all that often. And so I thought I'd be like, oh, hey, I wonder how this stacks up with my birthday. And like I said, not at all the same. So very interesting. But that having been said, that's been your numbers and your planets. So let's dive in with your tarot. That's right, the tarot, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. We don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out the cards to inspire our every whim or flight of fancy. We can just read it, see what it says, maybe line up some more context to things we've read, and leave it in a book. So let's dive in here. Emphasizing this last point is the fact that the sixth card of the major arcana is the Lovers, all right, symbolizing the love that unites all of humanity through integration of masculine and feminine polarities. On the good side of this card suggests affectations and desires of a high moral, aesthetic, but also physical plane. And on the bad side, it may indicate games of seduction, unfulfilled desires, sentimentality, or indecision. Obviously, all these themes are particularly appropriate to February 6 individuals, who must adopt a realistic and caring attitude if they are to achieve a lasting, deep, and meaningful personal love relationship. And what I find interesting here is they said it obviously applies to individuals, but I never can quite understand what they mean by a high moral aesthetic, but also physical plane. They tend to feed this one in through the Lovers card, and I still haven't quite figured out what it means. But apparently it's obvious, so I don't know. So just not to me, maybe. Maybe it speaks to you 100%. You know exactly what they're saying. I don't know, but I just wanted to bring it up because it bothers me a little bit there. And they haven't actually once said, I don't believe, that it's very particularly apparent. So it's interesting that that's the disconnect for me. That said, let's dive back into the notes here. See if I can provide a little bit more value outside of what was kind of boilerplate. The Lovers card, symbolizing the love that unites and integrates male and female energies with positives of affections and desires, but negatives of unfulfilled desires, sentimentality, and indecision. Interestingly, games of seduction isn't often mentioned for the Lovers card, whereas all the other qualities are pretty regularly. And with differences in mind, the tarot is seldom personalized. So this recommendation of adopting a realistic, caring attitude as to form lasting, meaningful relationships may be here for a reason. All right, to say they may have certain historical figures in mind where this is a common issue or a common through line. So I say all that to say maybe take note of as much. All right. As to whether this card spoke to the breakdown, what sticks out in my mind is the seeming capacity to make others feel seen. All right, so drill down on that particular aspect of the unconditional love, I would say. But without the games of seduction, all right, which I would argue might ostensibly be done for reasons of elevating your status, if we're to look at it from the popularity angle there. So yeah, avoid those games of seduction, all right? Manipulation's not a good look, all right? And I would say it probably arouses a little bit of antagonism, too, on the individuals who might discover you're doing as much, if that's something that factors in. But in any event, something I found interesting. So that's been your tarot. Let's move on to your health. All right, your health. February 6 people can be highly concerned with their appearance as it relates to their public image. And if they wish to remain healthy looking, they should investigate natural soaps, shampoos, and cosmetics, as well as focusing on proper nutrition in their diets. February 6 individuals must not overlook their internal workings while focusing on exterior concerns. Seeing a physician Once or twice a year for checkups is highly recommended, and those born on this day are often sportive types, and vigorous physical exercise is generally well tolerated by their physique. Sexual and sensual expressions is important to February 6 people, but they should beware of going overboard in search for passionate love. Affection and deep friendship may mean more to them in the long run and aid their personal and spiritual growth. All right, hey, very nice little added facet there at the end, I would say. But I might be getting ahead of myself. Let's see what I'd say about your health here. Says you're concerned with your appearance, all right? And this is not the first day for this in this period. And this actually comes up probably once or twice every particular period, at least once. So you're not alone in that respect, I would say. So some recommendations they made to this end, though no real advice for proper nutrition in that respect. But there was mention of not ignoring the internal, and I would say that probably applies to both the mental and physical internal aspects there, though they don't mention it specifically. They said you're a sporty type, and so vigorous exercise is apparently good for you, all right, or your physique, they said. Which surprises me. A lot of times I start to see a little bit of like a planetary link to say vigorous exercise is often associated with stronger, more aggressive planets like Mars. So typically when a Mars day comes up, it's in no uncertain amount of time, they would often bring up this competitive or vigorous exercise. For you, you got Venus and Uranus, so maybe the reason this comes up is because Uranus is shaking up Venus to no small part and causing it to be something that you can get after that vigorous exercise. May also help you work out any kind of demons you might have there too. That often seems to be a seeming common denominator also. For the folks that are so in their head or they've got a lot of things going on, the vigorous exercise comes up ostensibly to help ground them a little bit. That having been said, they didn't mention any specific diet, so I often like to bring up the Capricorn diet, which I know you're Aquarius, but Aquarius body areas are the circulatory system and the lower legs and ankles. Capricorn was the veins and the skeleton, so they're very similar. And I also mention this because most of the Aquarius period, they haven't drilled down on a specific diet. But in Capricorn, they did quite often. And the common the diet there was to avoid animal fats and dairy fats, ostensibly to cut out cholesterol. I think the one particular diet recommendation that came up for Aquarius individuals was to cut out red meat, ostensibly to keep your heart healthy and clear of any kind of plaque or buildup in the arteries. So it's a very similar kind of case for the Capricorns there. Also for Capricorns, they would bring up incorporating supplements and minerals into your diet, ostensibly for your bones, and that comes up here once in a while, also for your ankles and such. But I've also been making the recommendation to get yourself a pair of compression socks, because I've also seen come up warnings of stroke and embolism, and also varicose veins. So I would say if you're apt to want to wear some shorts and you don't want unsightly legs, say maybe head that off at the pass, get yourself some compression socks there. Prevent the stroke in the bargain. That said, that's been your health, what I had to say about it. So let's move on to some advice. All right. Take a good look at yourself apart from the opinions of others. All right. Discover your true nature. Be more transparent. Cultivating inner strength, rather, pays great dividends. All right, yeah. I had to write what I had to say about what they had to say in the book here. So give me a moment to get this in front of the camera here. And you got to bear with me. I had to write it real tiny. All right, they said take a good look at yourself, all right? You got to do the hard self-reflective work, I would say. And this oftentimes comes up. But in terms of acknowledging what others think, I would say for you. Here you got a little bit of a different concern, ostensibly putting a little bit too much stock in people's opinions, ostensibly, or maybe having unrealistic expectations of how they should react to your actions or what you have to say. So that might affect you a certain way, I would argue. What else do they have to say? So You ought to also take into account, like, you might get an opinion from them that you don't like. Well, it might just be that they don't have a clear image of you also. So there is this chance you're taking something away from a non-issue, I would say. Don't let that kind of stuff get into your head too much, because like I said, you never know where they're coming from. So it might be 100% on their back that the issue is. So you wouldn't want to be having some outlying rather insecurity on your back because this individual didn't have a clear idea of who you were, or maybe even what you were trying to express, right? Maybe I'm not saying that very clear, but hopefully you get the idea of what I'm trying to lay out for you. Any event, they also said discover your true nature. All right, probably change your entire outlook on life if you can do the hard work of self-awareness. All right, at the very least, it'll give you valuable perspective, I would say. It also said be more transparent, and again, this is an Aquarius through line, all right? But again, maybe in a different sort of way. Those other days, they like to hide the truth about who they are, or what their aims and their motivations are. And also, a lot of times they got the walls up, so people can't see the inner human being. And so they're often getting the recommendation of letting people see who you are, so that you can break down those barriers and ostensibly not be such a cold, calculating figure. I wouldn't say that was necessarily the case for you, but there might be a certain veil, if you like, between you and the person. If you're just leaning into the theme here, seeking popularity, kind of dressing things up, and you're not necessarily, the people aren't necessarily seeing the true you. Maybe they kind of, glean on to the public persona, right? But they're seeing the facade. They're finding endearment with the facade, not the real you. So yeah, be transparent so they can get to know the real you, because that's where the value lies, I would argue. They said cultivate inner strength. Work on those insecurities, all right? We all have them, all right? But don't let them define your needs, I would say. It's a tricky situation if something like being popular defines your life, assuming the breakdown applies naturally. But if you can find happiness without that popularity aspect, if it does figure into your life, well, hey, then if you do get some of it, it's just further icing on the cake. But I would argue if you've already left that behind, even if you start getting it, it's probably not going to matter much to you. And wouldn't that be a perfect place to be in, right? Where the thing that you thought was so important doesn't matter any longer because you did all the work that was necessary to become that high evolved individual. That's right. So in any event, that's what I'd say about your advice. A little disjointed there, a little bit of it. Hopefully you took some value from it regardless. So in any event, let's move on to your meditation. That's right. Let me get the book back in frame here. Your meditation. The mirror sees nothing. It only reflects. Oh, this one's a little zen, isn't it now? All right, once more. The mirror sees nothing. It only reflects. You know what? I like this one for you. I like it for just about anybody, quite honestly. It's a good one. That having been said, I'm not going to relay why I think it's important or why it's valuable. It's your birthday, your meditation. It kind of defeat the purpose if I laid it out for you. It might not even mean anything in that regard. So that's just for you. But that having been said, you're a meditation in the can, as it were. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror, see where we got the girth, ostensibly, and where we may be otherwise a little more deflated, if you like. That's right. Your strengths and your weaknesses. Your strengths, you're socially adept, you're well-liked, and you're facile. Oh, you're facile. That means you are able to achieve with little effort. All right. Hey, that's a nice one, I would say. But your weaknesses, oh, that's right. Let's hold that objective mirror back up or flip it to the side that blows up your face and maybe shows off the things you're otherwise superficially insecure about. Oh, that metaphor works particularly well based on the breakdown today. How about that? Your weaknesses, all right, you are self-unaware and you're insecure. Oh, you only got two, all right? And that wasn't news to us, right? We figured those things out based on a breakdown. All right, oftentimes I like to say, you know what? Our strengths are not always strengths. They can sometimes be weaknesses and vice versa, all right? There was one day that came up a few months back. Impulsive came in as a strength, and the very next day, it was a weakness. So I would argue it just depends on the individual as well as the situation. You're self-unaware and insecure. I would say in some cases that could be a strength. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but hey, maybe you get yourself in a situation where people are reliant upon you to do something and it's not something you want to do. Hey, you know what? This is a little bit of a cop-out area, but hey, maybe you come off insecure and drill down on being self-unaware, not necessarily knowing what's going on here, and they're apt to give it to somebody else. All right, I don't necessarily endorse that train of thought, but you know what? It's just an example that your weaknesses can be strengths. All right, hopefully you can better apply that angle to it. But that being said, your strengths also, I would argue, are going to help you overcome your weaknesses if there's something you want to improve upon. Socially adept, I would say if you realize you need help at something, you're going to be able to garner help from other folks. All right, also well liked. To that end, people are probably going to just jump to the occasion to help you out. And you're facile, or you achieve things with little effort. Well, it sounds like you're going to get over those weaknesses without much difficulty. All right. So that having been said, that's your strengths and your weaknesses. Let's move on to those born on this day. When we get into those born on this day, something I like to do is look at it through the lens of figuring out our passions. That's right. Let's try to take some inspiration from what other people did and see if we can't fuel the fires of our own inspiration, or fuel the fires of trying to figure out what's important to us, what we like to do. And I bring this up because a lot of times I meet folks and ask them what they do, and ask them more importantly if they like it, and they don't. And I think it's perfectly understandable. You get into a job right out of school to make ends meet. There's no real time to necessarily find one that has something to do with what we like. And that's for a lot of folks, right? And so then maybe we start climbing the corporate ladder, and we find ourselves in a nice little groove there, filling the coffers. But the fatal flaw is it's nothing fulfilling, right? Yeah, it's great to have money, but hey, to what end, right? I'd say it's better if we're just going after something that we find fulfillment in, that we're jumping out of bed doing backflips in the morning to get into. Now, maybe you can't do that from a financial standpoint, but hey, if you can find even a hobby to chase after, hey, that's perfect. And then maybe down the line, you put in the work and the time to figure out how to make it financially viable. That's right. So that's the goal here. Look at the folks born on this day and try to take some inspiration from it. That said, if you've got all that figured out, well then, the hat I'm not wearing is off to you. Let's just see who shares your birthday. So let's dive in, shall we? We start off with George Herman Babe Ruth. That's right, the baseball legend, the home run king, and the all-time leader in walks and slugging average. Two-time 20-game winning pitcher, also it says. We also have Ronald Reagan, the U.S. president, California governor, and film actor. We also have Bob Marley, the Jamaican reggae singer and songwriter, Christopher Marlowe, an Elizabethan playwright and poet, and says murdered at age 29. Ooh, no context though, so I wonder if it was because he was unpopular with some folks. Who's to say? But there you go, if that was the case. Got to be careful with the popularity, right? What else we got here? Aaron Burr, U.S. Vice President, soldier, and he killed Alexander Hamilton in a duel. We also have Queen Anne of England, a British early 18th century ruler. Francois Truffaut, a French film director and critic, also an actor and famous for The 400 Blows and Jules and Jim. We also have Natalie Cole, the singer and daughter of Nat King Cole. Mary Leakey, a British archaeologist with husband Louis, and found the earliest human remains in Olduvai Gorge, apparently. And this is an older book, so maybe that's since changed, who's to say. But we also have Eva Braun, Hitler's mistress, and married moments before the mutual suicide in a Berlin bunker. Jeez. Well, you know what? We all have to share our birthday with somebody, right? Here we go. Who else? Tom Brokaw, a TV journalist and NBC anchor. Robert Townsend, the film actor and director and famous for The Hollywood Shuffle. We also have Patrick McNee,
British film and TV actor. And it says, steed in the Avengers. We also have Sir Henry Irving, British 19th century stage actor. Zsa Zsa Gabor, a Hungarian-born film actress. It says Fabian, a rock and roll singer and film actor. We also have Rip Torn, film actor. Ramon Navarro, a Mexican-born silent film star. Claudio Aru, a Chilean pianist. And Manuel Orantes, a Spanish tennis champion and a U.S. Open winner. And I dare say there were a lot of names that I recognized, maybe the most I've ever seen. I'd say it's up there. It's a contender for sure. But hey, the day of popularity, for this particular instance, I would argue it's pretty true. All right, at least by the title. All right. That also said, I butchered a few names in there, so let's make up for it on my side. It's not done in malice. It's just hooked on phonics. Doesn't always work for me with the names. But that having been said, I know it's a big-ass tall order to take inspiration from the things that other individuals do. But like I said, maybe it just helps you stir up the fires a little bit to get after figuring that out for yourself if you haven't already. Because like I said, if there's anything I wish for you on your birthday, it's that you're chasing after something fulfilling. All right? But that essentially rounds out your birthday read. Except to say your season is winter, your sign is Aquarius, of the Aquarius II period specifically, and your quality and element is fixed air. Now, what does that mean? That's a different video entirely. I'll leave it at the end for you to check out if you're interested. But this has been February 6th, the day of popularity. From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Just Elfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy, diving in further, maybe finding out more about the birthdays on for other folks that you know. But that having been said, it's not altogether all too important. Like I said, I'll leave a link down there for you. It's right above a personal message I like to leave for the birthday boys and girls. But what's important around here, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. So once again, happy birthday, all right? And lest I forget, that's right, your daily numbers. If you ever get out of jail, you should get out there and try it out, all right? Let the universe show you it's with you on your path. Stack up some coincidences or some synchronicities if you like, and you'll understand why I brought it up, all right? And that goes for everybody that joined us randomly. You can take that out there and do it for yourself as well. And I hope you enjoyed it also, and you join us for your birthday read. That said, I want to thank you for the pleasure of your time. It has been a privilege to celebrate your birthday with you. All right. So once again, happy birthday. Get yourself some compression socks. All right. And don't take people's opinions too close to heart. And do some self-reflection and rise to be your higher evolved self, I would say. All right. And most importantly, have a happy birthday. All right.